This episode of Homemade was previously recorded in front of a live stream audience who asked questions and cook along during the show. If you love cooking and want to join us in the kitchen, visit homemadecooking.com to register for free live classes. Now, let's get cooking. Hello. If we haven't met before, it's so good to meet you. I'm Joel Gamoran, the head chef here at Homemade. I'm going to be your fearless guru today through this Stracciatella. I feel like I'm saying it better. Every single time I say I'm going to say it a little bit better, a little bit more romantic, a little bit more intensely. You never know. We've got a special guest today. For this special class, for this special occasion, we had to bring in our Italian blood and also the experience. Give it up in the chat, Chef Jenny.
Hi, everyone. I've also been described as warming in Italian, so great to be here.
As what Italian?
Warming and Italian, as you described the soup.
Warming. I could totally see you. What part of Italy is your family from?
Sicily. If my nanny was here, she would say we're not Italian, we're Sicilian.
Of course.
It's a difference.
Please,
people.
That's a whole different. Yeah, we're not going down that rabbit hole. That is. I spent a lot of time in Sicily. That's an incredible region. But you're so right. It feels like a different part of the world compared to the rest of Italy. It kind of is. Bottom of the boot. But I love it. If you've never heard of Stracciatella, it means little shreds. And it's kind of like the Italian egg drop soup. And there's little meatballs floating in it. And I have to say, as a Jewish boy growing up on matzo ball soup, I would say this to me is the closest thing to an Italian penicillin. This is something you can make when someone is sick, when they're having a rough day, or when you just want to throw on a romantic comedy, get into a muumuu and call it a night. It's up to you. So this to me is just pure comfort in a bowl. We're pairing it all up with what we feel like is also so authentically Italian, which is our favorite cracker brand. We love this brand so much, La Panzanella. We're going to show you some really cool ways that you can actually use crackers like La Panzanella in your cooking, and it pairs beautifully with this soup. So let's get cracking. Let's get cracking. That's hard to say. Here we go. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to make some meatballs. We started with a little bit of chicken today, which I love. Some ground chicken, about 1.5 pounds of that in a nice big bowl. This is traditional Stracciatella to use chicken. You know, when you use pork or you use beef, there's a lot of fat in those. And not that you can't do it, but the fat kind of eventually floats in the soup and dilutes the soup. So using a lean cut of meat like chicken or even like a pork loin, where there's not a ton of fat, is actually kind of optimal for this because the soup is the star, right? And the meatballs are kind of complementing it. So you could totally go ground pork, ground beef, but it's just going to be a little bit more fatty. Do you agree with that, Chef Jenny?
Oh yeah, and 'tis turkey season, people. Ground turkey would be great.
That's
here.
a good call. Yeah, that's a great call. All right, so I got a couple of our Panzanella crackers. They're going to go into a pestle and mortar. If you don't have one of these, grab a bag, grab a little mallet or a rolling pin, crush them up. But I'm going to take these, just crush them right inside. So then I'm just going to take my pestle and mortar, and I'm just going to grind these up. And then this is kind of crazy, I'm going to grab a little milk. All right? And I'm going to mix the milk in. This is not in the recipe. This is a trick from Chef Joel. Okay? Whenever you're making meatloaf, whenever you're making burgers, you can do this trick. And I mix the milk into the crackers. And what you make is this little paste. I'm going to hold it up. This is called a panade. All right, it's a little breadcrumb milk paste. And this really helps add just an absolute incredible insurance policy to your meatballs. It makes sure that it stays juicy. So what I do now is there's like literally just a 1/4 cup in here about. I take this panade, right, just like this, and I just slap it right into my ground chicken mixture. We're gonna crack an egg right in the middle. Booyah. Lemon zest. Oh, these meatballs are light. These are not those heavy meatballs that you feel like you're a meatball by the end of it. These are those types of meatballs where you can eat 20 of them and you're like, where did those go? I don't know. They're just really beautifully delicate. So lemon zest. Again, when you zest a lemon, always go around the outside. Just get the yellow bit, not the white. The white's bitter. The yellow is fragrant and stunning. We're gonna do one whole lemon because I freaking love lemon in my meatballs. Beautiful. And then an onion. Important to cut your onion extremely small, right? If you're not comfortable with a knife, that is totally cool. Put it in a food processor, blitz it until it's almost a paste. If you're comfortable with a knife, I want you to see how I cut this, but we want it to be almost disintegrate on your tongue when you eat the meatballs. Probably don't need this whole onion, but this looks great. See how fine you chop this onion. So what you'll notice with us, the only little bit of gluten we have is our panzanella, which they actually also have gluten-free crackers, which you could do this with as well. So if you're gluten-free, you could still love panzanella, but we only have 2 crackers in there. It is going to be very hard to overwork these. The reason why people say don't overwork your meatballs is less so the meat itself, more about the breadcrumbs that a lot of recipes call for. When you start to work out a ton of breadcrumbs, that's when there's a problem. So there's just not enough in here where you can really overwork it, right? Another problem is you don't want to sit there for like 10 minutes working it because the fat in whatever you're making, whether it's pork or beef, will start to render. It will start to get warm and it will start to run. And that also makes for a tough meatball. But again, we're not really using a fatty cut. So this is a very forgiving meatball. All right, I got 3 little spices here. I guess one's a seasoning, but we've got some fennel seed. Oh, I love fennel seeds, chili flakes, and some salt. So in we go. A little bit of olive oil. This is gonna help give everything a nice shine, sheen, and also bind it. Parmesan. I need fresh Parmesan Reggiano. That's gonna make a big difference. So decent amount in there. All right, I've got parsley and rosemary. Chop this beauty up. I mean, at this point, guys, with meatballs, it's just everyone in the actual bowl, right? You want to chop this up really good and fine. You know, I usually tell people not to chop herbs too much, but when they're really woodsy, like rosemary, you can chop them up nice and fine. Parsley you're going to taste less of in this recipe, but it will give nice color. This looks great. Beautiful. All right, in we go. Then get in there with a spatula. I like a spatula because I can really scrape the bottom. And you just start kind of working in and folding. Right? And again, these could be little burgers. These can be little breakfast sausages. These can be cooked in one big meatloaf. It doesn't have to become meatballs, but we love this recipe for the stracciatella. So you just really want to bring it together. Take a minute here, right? This is not one where you want to kind of just right when it comes together, you stop. This is one where I want to see ripples of fennel seed in every little bite. And what I'm seeing is that crushed panzanella cracker, panade, that little paste that we made. I want to make sure that every little meatball has that in it so it stays really nice and moist. This looks about perfect. All right, I'm going to grab some olive oil. Zigzag this puppy. Make sure you guys can see this. Across the bottom. I like to over olive oil the pan because you're almost frying in the pan. And the recipe calls for preheating at 375. That's totally fine. I'm going a little higher at 400. I like a little bit of a crispier meatball. And then at this point, the fastest way to kind of do this is an ice cream scoop. Just a baby little ice cream scoop, little bite size. And you just kind of scoop them in and just kind of plop them out. Now, if you really care about getting in there and getting the shape, I would still scoop them like this, right? But then I would go back and kind of shape each one. But to me, keep them freeform. They're going to get little crispy edges. Each one's like a little snowflake. They just bring their own little love to the party. Isn't that beautiful? They look like a little cookie dough. I'm into it. Yeah? So I'm going to pop this in the oven. I'm going to give this about 10 minutes or so. Meanwhile, I'm going to wash my hands and we'll talk about the soup. I do want to say, so stracciatella is like egg drop soup. So we're going to jump into this. So the base is we've got some chicken broth. I said broth. This is actually chicken stock. So we're going to make this really flavorful kind of egg mixture. So I'm going to start with, you guys already know, I love my black pepper. Some really good ground black pepper. Fresh ground. I like it kind of coarse. Then I crack a couple eggs in here. It's almost like you are making a carbonara here. Or a little, yeah, carbonara. Beautiful. So 2 eggs. Easy peasy. Next up, nutmeg. Nutmeg is not traditional in stracciatella, but when we were testing this, when we were discussing it, we wanted something that was warming, something that separated ours from everyone else. And this really does. It sets it off. It just gives it this little extra note. So a little bit of fresh ground nutmeg. There you go. So I added cheese into the egg. Mixing this together like an omelet. Really, really simple. And we just let that kind of hang on standby. Our stock is kind of at a simmer. It's about an 8 out of 10 right now. So that's perfect, right? We don't want this rolling boil. We want this just kind of gently blipping away. I'm going to check my meatballs real quick. They're looking awesome. I'm going to say another 2 minutes or so. Perfect amount of time to do some stracciatella. All right. I like sticking with the fork for this. Michaela, you've got the perfect angle. Guys, get close to your laptops, to your phones, because you're going to want to see this. So the way we want to do this is you don't want to just plop this all in. You kind of want strands going in. So I take my fork and I kind of start making a little circular tornado action. And you just kind of slowly start, look at that, adding the eggs. And it just quickly cooks and poaches and creates these little shreds, little Parmesan black pepper shreds. Now, I don't like it too, I like some nice shreds in there. So you don't need to kind of break up every last shred. Just kind of let them kind of hang. And then once those hit, you can turn down the heat to a really nice gentle simmer. And those eggs, at this point, they're already cooked. You can kind of see, it kind of looks like egg drop soup. It's crazy. It's beautiful is what it is. I love it. And it smells. You can smell the Parmesan. You can smell the nutmeg. It's just happening in all the right ways. All right. Let's go grab our freeform meatballs. I don't know why that had to be with a little accent. But let's grab these puppies out. They look unbelievable. I'm just going to put these here. Yeah, baby. So again, sticking with the theme of the soup, we're not looking for ultra crispy. We're looking for just a little bit of brown, but still kind of keeping that blonde vibe. And you can see I didn't form them, and they look stunning. They look beautiful. They look natural. Can we get to a close-up here, Michaela? I mean, look how beautiful those are. That's what I want in a meatball, right? I don't want one that looks like it came out of a perfect little machine. I want one that looks handmade with little divots and cracks and all the good stuff. It smells
incredible.
Ungodly in here. Like, unbelievable. So we'll let those cool down for just a sec. Then we'll be able to handle them. All right. I got some fresh parsley here. Some more Italian fresh parsley. And this is to top off the soup. So this is really meant just for just a little garnish. I just cut this about once or twice through. Again, kind of want to leave it nice and big. It's not about making this super small or else you start to lose the flavor. So once, twice through, and that's about it. I've got some extra parm and some extra olive oil. These are the 3 things you want. Again, there's so much you could top it with, but we're keeping this super simple. So next, let's just check these meatballs. I'm gonna put one on my board. You want these cooked all the way through, and you can tell when they're juicy too. So you kind of cut through, perfectly cooked, zero pink, but incredibly moist. You guys, I don't know if you guys can see this, but when I press on it, it's just pooling out juice. And that is thanks to the Panzanella little panade that we made. Again, chicken is not, it's not fatty. So what makes this juicy is that panade. Really helps. Oh my God. Oh my. Whoa. The fennel in that. To die for.
That's how you know it's Italian, if you taste fennel.
I love fennel so much. All right. So now these are a little bit cool enough to handle, and you just start plunking them in to this soup. Look how stunning. And I want to overdo it. Like, I want all these in there. I want everyone in the pool, right? It's not, I love a broth, but it's not about the broth. It's about a little bit of that nutmeggy egg and these stunning homemade, kind of spicy. Ooh, the spice just hit and it's awesome. Little chicken meatballs. Look at this. I'm just going to stir this up so you guys can kind of get a sense of it. How cool is this soup? This is everything you want. This is also one of those transition foods. I mean, we're in October. I'm not ready to say it's winter yet. No. I don't need a big heavy stew yet. I'm not there. Okay, I need something light and warming, something that's still filling but not overfilling, and this just fits the bank. All right, so here's how I plate this puppy up. Grab your bowl, get in there with a nice ladle, and just start spooning out some of that broth, some of those eggs. You see all the little shreds.
The little shreds are so cute.
They're very cute. And it adds a nice creamy texture. Right? And they have so much flavor. So you just kind of plate it up like this. That looks gorgeous. On top of this, you grab a little bit of parsley, a little bit more Parmesan, a little glug of olive oil. Just float that on top. Kind of move all this out of your way. You need to be able to see this in all of its glory because it is stunningly beautiful and so simple. Then, this is where I take a little bit of the Panzanella. You can just kind of balance them on one end, just like that. Just bring them to the table, have a bowl of them ready to go, just ready for dunking. That is what they're there for.
Yes.
Ready for dunking.
I would have done more than two, but that's the difference between you and me. You have self-control.
I have a sleeve next to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will be working my way through the sleeve. But I appreciate you thinking that 2 crackers would suffice. I have to do it a little bit extra black pepper. Just over the top. And this, my friends, before I eat it, I know a lot of people like to take pictures. I want to make sure that you guys can. So I'm going to hold this up. Make sure you guys get this in all of its glory. I'll kind of tip it here. Beautiful soup. It's just one of those soups. It's so different, but so recognizable and just speaks to your soul. So first bite is going to be with a La Panzanella cracker. So you just get in there. You can see you can get a little bit of egg on there. And what I like about a cracker with this soup is that it doesn't take over the soup. It's not a big piece of crusty bread. There's enough going on in this soup where a nice light, perfectly seasoned cracker complements it beautifully.
Hear that crunch.
Yeah, even after I soak it in the broth too. So good. So simple. So clean. Okay, so just tried the broth with just a little bit of the egg. And it's so delicate. That is why I love this soup. Ooh, just the broth is great. All right, cut into one of these meatballs. Get in there. Forget about it. That is so familiar. You know, that's the best way I can say it. It's a breath of fresh air. It's just like, oh, I'm home. There's someone taking care of me. I'm nurtured, I'm looked after. It's perfect. It's so perfect and so simple. You guys, this has been one of my favorite classes in a while. It's so simple and so decadent. I love it. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. Happy cooking, everyone. Take care. Hey there, I'm Joel Gamoran. I'm the head chef and founder of Homemade, and we launched Homemade with the idea that we want to bring cooking and the kitchen to the world. So if you love cooking and want to join us in one of our free live stream cooking classes, head to our website, homemadecooking.com. That's homemadecooking.com to register today. Now sit back, relax, watch a little bit more cooking maybe, and enjoy the rest of your flight.